On March 14, 1984, police were horrified when they found a young 27-year-old single mother, Sarah Mobley Hall, and her 10-year-old son, Derek, beaten and strangled to death in their apartment on Ventura Way, North Carolina. Sarah looked after children with special needs, including her own son. After nearly 4 decades of investigation, Sarah and Derek's family received closure in 2023. Who would want to kill Sarah and her young son who had special needs? How did the investigators find the culprit after all these years? Our case today takes us to Charlotte, the most populous city in North Carolina. It is located in the Piedmont region of rolling hills near the southern border of North Carolina. Home to about 874,579 people, it hosts a friendly and vibrant community of people with different cultures. The mild temperate climate is one of the main reasons why residents decide to call Charlotte their home, offering a lower than average cost of living. Charlotte has something to offer to everyone, whether they are looking to raise a family, start a business venture, or just enjoy quality living. With its politically progressive and culturally rich community, Charlotte houses a large population of different ethnicities. Residents often like to refer to Charlotte as the beautiful city due to its magnificent natural beauty, abundant parks, and a stunning nightlife. Unfortunately, one fine spring day in 1984, something happened in this charming city that tarnished its beauty for almost 40 years to follow. Born to Mary Walker Mobley on May 1, 1956, Sarah Mobley Hall experienced a great loss in her childhood when her mother passed away after birthing Sarah's sister Mary and Mobley in 1958. After that, Sarah developed strong maternal instincts, and she decided to dedicate a major part of her life to helping others. Although they were raised by their grandmother after their mother's demise, Sarah played a crucial role in the upbringing of her sister, Mary. Once she became an adult, Sarah worked as an educator's aide at St. Mark's School for the Handicapped. She had an amicable and gentle nature and was well-liked by everyone at her workplace and in her family. Then on September 3, 1973, a son was born to Sarah Mobley Hall and Albert Hall. Derek Dion Mobley was raised by his mother alone and was a student at Newell Elementary School. Sarah had devoted her life to taking care of her son who needed special attention and also other less fortunate kids who needed extra care. Sarah lived with her son on Ventura Way, North Charlotte, near the complex along Reagan Drive, which is now referred to as Somerset Apartments. Both of them were really close to each other. Derek was full of smiles and just as amiable as his mother, he seemed to share a special bond with Sarah. He also shared a friendly relationship with his Aunt Mary, who used to visit them often. Since Sarah was a single mother, her sister used to help them out and spend time with them. No one knew that the young lives of Sarah and Derek would end so soon. March 14, 1984 was a spring day, and Charlotte residents were going about their lives as usual. On the same day, a few neighbors noticed a foul smell coming from Sarah's apartment. When they went to inspect the area, they found the door ajar. It raised the alarm for them, and they were quick to inform police about the incident. When the police arrived at the crime scene, they described it as truly horrific. Not only was Sarah, a young lady, and her little child brutally strangled using a phone cord, but Sarah had also been ruthlessly beaten. The bodies had been rotting for a few days before they were found by the neighbors. The crime scene pictures and the entire environment of their apartment looked deeply appalling. The police contacted Sarah's family to inform them about the brutal killings. Her sister, Mary, received the information through a phone call. She was completely heartbroken and blamed herself for not being there for her sister and nephew. She informed the police that she used to spend a lot of time with them in college, and she used to work in the area near Sarah's house. The police chief Johnny Jennings and Mecklenburg Sheriff Gary McFadden tried securing all the available evidence, talked to every possible suspect, and investigated the neighborhood thoroughly, but nothing of substance could be secured. Initially, the police had a few suspects in mind, but none of them led the police anywhere. In the 80s, the police mostly relied on solid evidence against the culprit. Eyewitnesses, follow-up interrogations, and old-school detective work were the only options available for investigators to find the bad guys. Even after extensive investigation, the case went cold. Though different detectives reopened the case time and again, no new leads could be found. Police Chief Johnny Jennings reopened the case in 1998 and investigated the case further. DNA was new at that time. So after turning over every possible stone, he suspected that the pillowcase found at the crime scene on which Sarah's body was found to be resting on could have the DNA of the suspect. Unfortunately, the police database did not hold any matches at the time. Decades would go by, and Sarah and Derek's family still remained oblivious as to who had taken their loved ones from them in such a cruel manner. After almost 39 years in 2023, technology had seen multidimensional development. After almost 40 years, the police gained a new tool in the form of genetic genealogy and DNA testing to provide justice to victims' families. The Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department received a grant from the Bureau of Justice Assistance to allow the use of new DNA technology. In 2023, CMP Captain Joel McNeely sent some of the DNA found on the pillowcase to Forensics Innovative Labs, a company specializing in forensic genetic genealogy. The report was produced on the basis of records available in commercial databases. It did not lead the police to the killer, but it definitely laid out an easier path for them to tread upon. The report identified a match with a relative of the suspect. Then they partnered with the FBI to carry out a familial DNA search, making it the first ever case in North Carolina to use familial DNA technology to solve a murder. This finally revealed that the DNA found on the pillowcase was a direct match to a 61-year-old man named James Thomas Pratt. It seemed that just a year shy of 4 decades after their murder, Sarah and Derek could finally receive justice. James Pratt was born on April 14, 1962. He seemed to have lived a double life. While he was referred to as a good guy by people who knew him, he also had a number of minor misdemeanor reports against him. He was arrested a couple of times between the 1980s and 1990s. Even so, he was not linked with the double homicide of Sarah Mobley and Derek Mobley. The police did not even consider him a suspect in the 1984 case of Sarah and Derek due to them believing he had an insignificant relationship to the case and the victims. People who knew him found the news of his arrest deeply shocking. Glenn Counts, a veteran crime reporter of Channel 9, visited the Fort Mill Motel to discuss the news with the residents. They said that he was the guy who made sure that kids got in from school okay. James had also informed another resident that he was a church-going man. He was employed as a handyman in North Carolina for about 2 years. The resident stated that he was a good person who helped them with the installation of car batteries or checking on the kids, but there was a dark side to this good church-going man. His criminal history covered almost 2 decades. In 1982, he had a drug charge against him. Not long after, it finally dusted off in 1987. He was charged with a car break-in. Just a few years later, he was called in for assault and battery in 1991. It had hardly been a year before he was arrested for an assault on a female. This time, a decade went by until he was arrested for another assault case. These charges did not stay for a long time as they were quickly disposed of. But after almost 40 years, a solid case has been built against him. At the time of the murders of Sarah and Derek, James Pratt was 22 years old and lived in the neighborhood. What's more surprising, he was even friendly with them. So although the motive had not been identified, he was definitely the one who murdered a young single mother and her innocent son who had special needs. James Thomas Pratt was staying in a hotel in York County off Highway 21 near Caso in South Carolina on February 1, 2023 when the police reached the hotel and arrested him. He was cooperative according to the officers. He has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and no bond has been provided to him. He was extradited and is currently being held at the Mecklenburg jail. The arrest of Pratt was a joint effort by CMPD's Homicide Unit, FBI, Charlotte Field Office, CMPD Cold Case Review Team, CMPD Crime Lab, Innovative Forensic Investigations, North Carolina State Crime Laboratory, York County Sheriff's Office Bureau of Justice Assistance Saki Funding, Parabon Nanolabs, and the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. After 39 years, everyone had forgotten Sarah and Derek except their family and the police department who were constantly looking for new leads. These 4 decades would have been enough to make a 61-year-old man believe that he had finally gotten away with murder. Thanks to the advancement in technology, justice has been served. Sarah and Derek's family received the news of Pratt's arrest by showing their gratitude to the police for not letting the culprit go. Mary, Sarah's sister, said, "I carried a burden for years because I felt like I should have been with her. All these years, she believed that it would never have happened if she had been with her." She remembered Sarah having a jovial personality and Derek being a friendly child. Mary thanked everyone who helped her and her family find some answers and put this incident behind them. She added that the arrest of James Pratt had brought great relief to her. CMP Captain Joel McNeely said, "There's a lot of bad people that have done a lot of bad things that are probably a little concerned right now.